All right, we good?
Looks good to me.
Hey, somebody made it. All right.
Yep, one person made it. Looks like about 12 people.
We'll give it a sec just to let people hop on. So this is the deal with the sharing screen. Apparently you used to be able to live stream on YouTube using Google Hangouts, and then they made it so you can't do that anymore. And when it was Google Hangouts, you could just hit share screen and you would be able to share your screen, but now you need separate video sharing software. So we're using a software called OBS to screen capture, and then we are actually in a Zoom call. So we're in Zoom sharing our screen, which is being captured by OBS. So you can see us in the bottom and then see the presentation.
Seems like it should be easier.
It's a whole thing. Yeah, I wish there was an easier way. Sweet. We had some people in.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
We'll probably just give it a little bit longer since there were, I think, about 20 people in before we left. So.
Yeah. Do you want to tell everyone about what we were doing today? The main event, or do you want to wait for the species we went out to look for today?
Okay, so we're starting a new thing on our channel where we're going to highlight one specific species, and it's kind of going to be more of a focused, factual, informative sort of thing about one species at a time. So we went out and filmed for our first one of those. It needs to be put together, but we're going to see if people like them. Because it seems like those videos get some staying power on YouTube. Yeah.
So, and it'd be cool to, put most of the attention on one species too. And we're going to continue doing the other stuff that we've been doing.
Nature Adventures with Jack say hello. Also happy almost 4th of July.
Hey,
happy almost 4th of July to you too.
Correct. Yeah.
Do you want to tell any of the viewers about the exciting stuff we have going with Coyote?
Not yet.
Not yet. You want to hold that one tight to the
We have some cool stuff, and we're talking about doing some cool stuff, so we'll see what happens with it. But a lot of exciting things on the horizon.
And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that we have the t-shirts now.
It's
and
true.
We also have the mugs, so we've had a couple purchases on those. And if you want one of those, you can go to our website and click on the merchandise tab.
You want to actually put that in the chat? We got another computer open for chat, so Ryan's going to post the link to the merchandise. You can put the merch tab on the website. I think that'd be good. But Ryan ordered one of the Let's Chat mugs, and it looked really good. I don't know where it is. It was around here somewhere.
It's somewhere. It looks good.
Yeah. So we're going to start off by talking a little bit about basic bird ID stuff and what good things to look for. What are some good things to look for? And then we'll get into some of the pictures that you guys sent us. And then I also picked some good ones. So how this is going to work is after we go through the ID stuff, it'll show a picture of a bird. It'll show the location. And it will also show the time of year if it's kind of necessary to the ID. And so then after we kind of talk about that, it'll show 5 options of what the bird is. So we'll kind of narrow it down for you, and then we'll, go through what the actual one is. And so I want you guys to be talking about it in the chat.
April made it.
Okay, good. All right, so I think we'll probably get into it now. I think it's probably been enough time for people to hop on.
Yeah, that seems good. And before we get started, there's a couple things that are hurdles to identification. The first one I would say is that you get a bad look at the bird, and even a bad photo of the bird. So I've had a lot where it's like something flying. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I take a picture of it, and then I still can't identify it because it's too far away, resolution's too low, or whatever. And then the second one is that there's a similar species that looks very comparable to it. So like Louisiana water thrush and northern water thrush can be hard. Cooper's hawk, sharp-shinned hawk can be hard. And then any flycatcher that's an empid can be difficult.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the times when you get a really bad look at something, it's really easy to like romanticize that it was something really rare. Like I remember
Let's go chasing zebras.
Me and my friend were driving at night, and it was an area where there could be barn owls, but like he said an owl flew across. He's like, oh, it was probably a barn owl. But it's like, it could have been a great horned. It could have been a barred because they're also in the area too. But it's always easy when you just get that brief look to be like, that was probably the rare thing that I really wanted to see. And I didn't get enough.
Could have been the same one. Whenever we'd be looking for a bird, would always, like, we'd see something and it'd be like, that had to be it. There's nothing else it could be. And there'd be like no reason for that. But yeah, it's easy to do.
It's tough sometimes. Thanks, Suzette. She said, love your videos. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's always easy to like, do that. And that's why I like taking pictures of everything, because then if you second guess, you can always look back at your photos and like confirm, or they'll split species. You know, they'll have one thing will be a species and they'll split it, and it's nice to have the like picture evidence. But then, yeah, there's also those species that just look really similar, and, you know, you need to look at specific ID features to kind of tell them apart. And that's what we do with a lot of the ID tips videos. It's those species that are hard to tell apart. And so we help highlight some of the key features there. So, cool. Jack, yeah, I got your 2 photos. I included one of them because we have a couple others of yours in this too. So, first of all, let's go through. One of the things you should look for is what is the shape of the bird. So on the left, you have definitely a different shape than the bird it's in the middle and the bird on the right. So definitely looking at what these kind of features are is important. So on the left, we're talking about features here. You have the really long bill. So if you're trying to describe it to someone, that's often where these key terms kind of come in. You might say, oh, it had like a really long pointed bill, or it had, you know, a really long neck that was kind of like curled up, or it had really long feet. And actually, when we were at the zoo, do you want to explain the fun fact about the feet for some of the
we
wading
learned,
birds?
And one of our friends that was with us found this infinitely fascinating and just thought it was like the funniest thing ever. Apparently, the knee, where it looks like it bends backward, is actually essentially the start of the foot. So that whole point on a flamingo, and I'm assuming other birds as well.
Well, they said like the heel, right?
Yeah, it's,
so
the,
like
heel.
the heel.
So that's
down,
basically their heel,
feet.
and then the part that looks like their ankle is actually an elongation of the foot into the toes. So, yeah, we found that to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. So then in the middle, we have these 2 birds that are very close to each other. Some species, I'm thinking specifically in the south, like Inca dove, they love to sit really close next to each other. So that's also like a defining feature. Was it in a group of birds? Was it by itself? Also, we have definitely that little short bill that kind of curves down. That's very characteristic of certain species. And then things like a short tail are also important to look at. So on the right, we have a really tiny bill, and then we have short feet, short legs, and then we have a really long tail. And so then you can start describing things by what they're similar to. So on the left, we'd say, you know, probably a heron-like bird. In the middle, you know, parrot-like birds. And then on the right, you know, something like swallow-like bird. So even just by looking at the characteristics of the bird can help you kind of narrow it down to what it is most likely to be. So also another thing to think about is what color is it? And here we have a group of red knots. Color can be a little bit deceptive based on shadows and things like that. So it's important to take everything into account. But we have a group of red knots here. This one's actually banded with the green flag. But definitely have, you know, the rusty coloration in the mature birds, and then in the non-winter juveniles, you'll have more of this drab plumage. So definitely a lot of differentiation between seasons and age of birds, but, you know, color is definitely important when you're identifying things.
I feel like if you're not familiar with a species, when it's in one of those different plumages, it can be difficult. Like, even think about like a goldfinch. Mm-hmm. Like a goldfinch during summer is very obvious what it is, but during winter, they kind of start to look like pine siskins. They kind of start to look like flycatchers if it's in one of those transitional periods. So it can definitely change the way you look at it.
If it's molting. Like, sometimes things look really beat up. They're like, plumage is coming in and they just had a rough time, and they can look very different. A lot of the times it's those like brown kind of drab birds that look very similar. What do we have in the chat here?
Ferris says, I saw a bunch of fly-catching birds today over the water. They had forked tail feathers, but I couldn't figure out what they were. Reminded me of purple martins, but I didn't see any martin houses nearby.
So the forked tail is a big key. Depending on where you are, it's likely that they're probably barn swallows, because
that's what I was just thinking.
Barn swallows, they're going to be dark bluish on the back and then kind of reddish on the stomach, and they'll have the forked tail, where other species that look similar to the barn swallow don't have that forked tail. So that's a good key identifying feature that, you know, they were able to pick up, and that helps narrow it down.
And it's funny too, because like the more you get experience with seeing birds and how they behave and how they fly, you can kind of start to just, oh yeah, I know that flight pattern. We were talking about that with house sparrows today. How they have a really goofy short tail and quick flight pattern, and they look like they're trying their best to go and are just barely moving anywhere. So you kind of get to know the species the more you see them.
Yeah, Steven said, took a picture of a curlew or whimbrel in April, but it's still not downloaded from my camera. We get it downloaded, man, then you can tell it apart. In my experience, the curlews definitely have a longer, thinner, more curved bill than the whimbrels, but they can definitely be different to tell apart.
And Spurfy said prime example is a molting cardinal, very scary looking.
Definitely, especially when they lose the plumage on the head.
In the head, they look vulture-y, not as scary. And then Pizza Frenzy Man says hello.
Hello
To you too.
All right, so another thing to look at is how is it feeding / acting. So on the left here, we have a bunch of gulls loafing around on the ice. And they actually look really blue in this picture, but it was just because of the time of the day. But, you know, in the winter, they'll often congregate on the ice shelves and hang out together. So if you see a lot of that, it's most likely gulls. But, you know, there's definitely other things that can be in there, too. In the middle, we have a hairy woodpecker that's very characteristically perched on the tree like that. Often woodpeckers will sit in that position or feed as they kind of go up and look for food. And, of course, they'll be pecking in the tree. So that's very distinctive behavior. And then on the right... that might actually be a good quiz bird if you guys want to. What bird is that on the right there?
That's one of those that people ask for a lot.
So we'll wait for you guys to put that in there.
Yeah, plop it in the chat.
So without saying what it is, there's definitely types of birds that are more likely to come to your feeder and feed on the different stuff. So those are also good ones to know. So how is it feeding? Acting can play a big role in deciding what kind of bird it is, and it's always good to note that. Just like in the example we had is... you know, that they were fly catching over the water, that they were, you know, almost like...
And Ferris has said since then that could definitely be a barn swallow. Recall seeing a buffy chest, so that definitely fits.
For sure. So we have a couple answers coming in. Looks like we're 50-50 house finch, purple finch right now.
Yep.
And that's actually a video we did an ID tips on, was house finch versus purple finch. And we actually had Matt Young come in and talk. He's our finch expert that we always love to go to for finch-related questions. And he loves... he's... like the guy that loves finches the most out of anyone I've ever met. Yeah.
There's nobody that can compare, I don't think. One says purple Grinch.
Do you think that was a typo or no?
I think it was a typo, but it would be kind of a funny thing to call him. And then red-winged blackbird female or house finch.
Okay.
You know, the red-winged blackbird females do have a very similar color pattern to house and purple finches.
That's true. Nicholas' last name says the white eyebrow is distinctive of female purple, more female purple votes. And so I think we can move on from that one.
Yep, definitely female purple finch with the striping.
Yeah,
that color too, the more cream color with the brown compared to kind of the different shades of tan.
The white eyebrows are really distinctive marking for that. Not a typo
for the Grinch.
Nice. So good job with, you know, this was just kind of on the fly here, but all right. Also consider the habitat. Definitely where the bird is plays a big role. On the left, we have that swamp sparrow, of course, being in the swamp. So the name doesn't always fit perfectly with the habitat, but for that one, it normally does.
I feel like this can mess you up sometimes, though, because I've seen some birds in places
it
they don't
can,
really
but
belong,
like the majority,
like, what is happening?
The majority are going to be in their preferred habitat, or like the wood thrush on the right being in the forest, being in their very characteristic habitat. So it really depends. But it's definitely a good thing to consider where it was seen and also consider the location. So Terry Soule created these range maps, and they highlight, you know, where birds are expected to be as far as being a permanent resident, just when they're breeding, when they're non-breeding, when they're just passing through. And so it's really important to consider if something would be rare in a region at a certain time, because it doesn't mean it's not that. It just means it's likely the other one. So you should take that into consideration.
A lot of times people will just put something in a Merlin, and it'll just give them an answer that is not even in like the continent at that particular
Well, you
time.
can put in range for Merlin, so it'll tell you if it's rare.
Yeah, but you'll see people just, you know, be like, oh, I just saw a
I think,
flycatcher,
you know, relying on Merlin too much, or any bird ID app, is not good. But I think if
you have
put
to
it,
know what's expected and what's not, and determine whether it would be a mega rarity or not. So.
But I think if you put it into Merlin and it gives you some suggestions, that can be useful to narrowing it down.
If you do the research.
So I think it's important to remember that they're tools, not like the end-all be-all, but they're also fun and interesting to use. So moving on, we are going to start the bird ID quiz. So we'll go to our first one right here. This was taken in Wisconsin in the winter. And so you guys can put in the chat what you think of for this one. Is there a little bit of delay on there too?
Maybe a little bit, but not too bad.
I really love these birds. I think they're very charismatic.
Well, this is a common tough ID between this one and a very close relative.
It's true. We actually have an ID tips on this one too.
I'm getting some of the chats in. I think we have our highest live stream total from the last two in right now as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I had fun putting this together. It was cool seeing your guys' photos from across the country and getting to put some information in. So we got some votes in the chat here, so we'll narrow it down to our top 5. So, all right, we got pine siskin, evening grosbeak, pine grosbeak, common redpoll, and hoary redpoll. So I don't think anybody said pine siskin, evening grosbeak, or pine grosbeak. So basically at this point, the consensus is it's either a common or a hoary redpoll, right?
Some kind of redpoll, yeah. And if you saw it actively feeding, it would be even more of an indicator that some sort of finch species. So you would see very quick flight patterns, very frantically feeding and moving about. And hoary versus common redpoll can be really hard because there's definitely shades of gray.
And there's even been talks about lumping them together at some point.
And some of the things that you look for between those two species are in the hoary redpoll, it's going to have that overall more frosted appearance. It's going to have less streaking on the flanks. It's going to have less streaking on the rump. And I've seen some that look very much like a common redpoll. I've seen some that look like a snowman. So they can really range in what they look like. And there's also some people say the bill is going to be smaller on the hoary, but no consensus has been drawn on that one yet.
Right. And so this particular bird has a lot of streaking on the sides. That's definitely a good indicator in favor of common redpoll over hoary redpoll. Another thing is if you saw, this is just one individual, but you saw it in a group and they're all kind of this similar brownish color, they're likely all commons. So this one's a common. So actually, if you want to put the common versus hoary redpoll in the chat, if people want to check it out later,
up real quick.
We can do that as we move on to our next one. So this is kind of a more straightforward one, taken in Wisconsin in the spring. And we had a juvenile of this bird in here originally, actually, and that's a pretty hard ID differentiating between a couple different species. So I thought I'd add a photo of the adult to kind of start it off. So what are you guys thinking for this one? And I believe these birds were actually the first birds that were ever banded for research too, which is kind of a fun fact.
Got some votes right away for black-crowned night heron.
Yeah, black-crowned night heron.
Yep, and here is the common versus hoary redpoll video if anyone wants to watch it. Nature Adventures with Jack got one last night.
What does that say then?
BCNH.
Oh, gotcha. I thought it said
For
boom. I thought it was like got one last night.
It's like got one last night, suckers.
Night heron. Well, that's,
Alabama crimson-eyed nutcracker, aka black-crowned night heron. That's funny.
So Tom Knowles just said night heron. That can be kind of tricky. So we'll narrow it down here. And the main thing, especially with the juveniles, is yellow-crowned night heron versus black-crowned night heron, because they can look awfully similar. And so it's good to kind of like look at a lot of juveniles, because we had a juvenile yellow crown show up in Milwaukee.
Yeah, that one was showing more yellow on the crown though.
Yeah, it's definitely easier when they start to go through. So I think everybody did a really good job on this one. So we got the black-crowned night heron here, and that's actually like a bird that I always love to see because they're kind of secretive, and they always hang out in this one place in Milwaukee, and you can kind of reliably find them there. And so it's always fun to go there and see them.
The adults really are not a problem most of the time, except when they're flying. Like if you catch one
with
from
ID,
underneath.
not like in society,
Well, it's the juveniles, the juvenile delinquent ones, where sometimes a yellow-crowned night heron gets mixed in up here.
The color can look similar, right?
They can look very similar in the juveniles.
Yeah. So great job, everyone, on that one. All right, this is one of our viewers submitted this one. Brian Nielsen had it, and this is a really unique bird seen in Washington. So, and he gave a date range in there too. So we'll have you guys put in your guesses for this one. And if you want to say a little bit about like why you came to the conclusion, you can throw that in there too.
Yeah, I thought this was a really interesting bird. It's definitely one of the trickier ones. To me, right away, if you just get a look at it, it looks like something they'd sell in a pet store.
Kinda, yeah.
Kind of reminds me of like a zebra finch.
Mm-hmm.
Got a vote for white-crowned sparrow, clay-colored sparrow, white-crowned sparrow.
Hopefully we don't get any black-crowned night heron for this one.
Get a little delay. Black-crowned night heron, Alabama crimson-eyed nutcracker.
I want to, yeah. But looks weird. So right off the bat, you notice it looks kind of weird.
Something's up with that bird.
Yeah, I haven't really seen this before, right?
So we got a lot of votes for white-crowned sparrow.
Okay, cool.
You want to tell them why they're all wrong?
No,
I'm kidding.
All right, so first of all, when you guys see this bird, definitely it's like, yeah, something's a little weird. So we'll narrow it down here. So you'll notice a lot of the choices here say leucistic, and leucism is kind of can make birds look different. And leucism is when there's sort of a lack of pigment in parts of the bird, so it can be patchy or it can make them all white.
Yep.
And
Commonly,
so it's similar.
I see this in robins.
Yeah, it's similar to albinism, but different, and it can also make them look kind of just weird overall. And I think would you say that's probably a juvenile leucistic, or do you think just leucistic?
It's really hard to
tough
say.
to
You
say.
don't know how much leucism it has. Versus
Right, and so that
color.
kind of accounts for some of the differences in coloration, I think, especially on the tail. It looks very white, but also with this species, they can look awfully brown when they're juveniles too. So
it's funny because everyone in the chat, for the most part, wasn't like white crown sparrow. They're like white crown sparrow.
well, that's kind of what it looks like when you first see it. So, all right. So we also had golden crown immature,
which is a good guess.
Yeah. So this one actually is. We think it's a leucistic white crown sparrow. And Brian, when you submitted it, actually said, I think his exact wording was like white crown sparrow, but looks funky or something like that. And so we came to the conclusion we think it's a leucistic white crown sparrow. So be on the lookout for leucistic birds too. It can make them look a little different.
Well, especially with birds like gulls. So I've heard some stories about people that were like, I thought I found an ivory gull, and it turned out to be a leucistic ring-billed
Red-tailed
gull.
hawks too can sometimes look
Weird-looking
super
bird,
white, and it's really beautiful. All right, this one was from New Hampshire.
I think this is a good one too.
From Birding with Nick and Quinn submitted this one. So we'll see what you guys think about this one. These are some, we started off easy and we're getting into some tricky ones right away. Black crown night heron.
That's the answer for everything. It's black crown night heron.
It's a quiz of only black crown night herons. So we got a chestnut-sided warbler.
Vireo.
I'm thinking of Vireo. So right off the bat, our two guesses are definitely like thinking smaller bird would appear in a forest, like you see in the background. So using the habitat in there. What other guesses do we have? I feel like we're hosting a game show.
Kind of. Should we award prizes next time? Keep a tally at home. Black crown night heron.
That's the secret answer to everything.
Well, while we're waiting for answers, we'll do a buck score check. Not telling me what the hawk score is. I just see the bucks at 47.
Ryan and I were saying that we feel like we haven't watched a ton of the Bucks all year, and they've done really well. And then the game we did watch was when they Giannis got injured and they lost really poorly.
Like
so we were
30.
saying it's probably better if we just don't watch anymore. He's got
Flycatcher is a good guess because you see the two wing bars.
Flycatcher, blue-headed vireo. So definitely we're still thinking that smaller bird category.
Why don't you narrow it down?
All right. So we're going to narrow it down here. Notice all of these say juvenile. So right off the bat, it kind of looks like the color is not totally there. He's still getting some of his, full plumage in there. So we narrowed it down to juvenile pine warbler, juvenile chestnut-sided warbler, juvenile chipping sparrow, juvenile palm warbler, and juvenile blue-winged warbler. So putting a lot of sparrows and warblers in there. It's flycatchers often do have those two distinctive wing bars, but this guy definitely has more of like a warbly look with the longer bill.
Mm-hmm. You can also tell he's juvenile by how patchy all of the coloration is.
The longer
and how he
tail
looks
too.
like he's just a little disheveled.
Mm-hmm. Initial thought is chestnut-sided. Wish I could zoom in. We can zoom into the bill for you. We'll pull him up.
That's actually just making him huge.
Well, it should zoom in. We'll do our best here. Hopefully that helped a little bit. It's delayed.
Yep.
There we go.
Boom. It's massive. I think that's probably good.
Any other guesses? All right, so with this one, if we look by the face, you can actually see a little bit of black coloration coming down from the bill and going down to the wing area. And that was kind of a big help for me when looking at this bird. So We decided on juvenile chestnut-sided warbler. Sorry, I'm adjusting things here. Juvenile chestnut-sided warbler. And if you look at the adult bird, you'll see that it has some of the plumage coming in, but definitely not all of it yet. So that was one of the main things. Also, kind of the yellowish coloration coming in on the wing bars.
Yeah, I thought the
really
yellow was a big
too.
indicator. You can also see some on the top of the head.
Yeah, so
we're up to 30 watching the live stream.
Awesome.
The new highest that we've ever had. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in, by the way.
Yeah,
we had
of
a
course.
good time doing this last time, so we figured it would be fun to do it again.
So we'll go on to the next one here. All right. So April Hudson sent me these. These are from 2 different days of duck species that we have here. So let me know if you need me to zoom in on anything.
Zooming in was kind of a debacle.
It's tough, yeah. But so we're in Wesley Chapel, Florida, and this is also in the summer. So we'll see what guesses you guys have for these guys. Let us know in the chat. We got a "This is fun" comment. Model duck, American Widgeon, ?
Should we give them a hint?
No.
I have a slight hint.
Okay, fine.
The location is infinitely important in this particular identification.
Was it like a marketing thing that says location is key? Or, they say location.
Yeah, location. Nature Adventures of Jack. Domestic something, I don't even know. I was at the park with the local mallard population today, and one had some chicks and, well, I guess ducklings, and it's in a place where the ducks get fed a lot by the people
even
at the
though
park.
there's no feeding
Yeah,
signs
even though
up.
they're not supposed to. So this little duck comes like waddling over to me and like bites my shoe, realizes it's an edible, and then goes away. And then the mom just hisses at me. I was like, I didn't even do anything.
You were there. All right, so we got another American Widgeon. American black ducks do not occur that south, actually.
Nicholas originally went with American Widgeon, then said modeled then with the
Gotcha.
location tip.
Yeah, it's a little... The top picture is a little... Can we see the cursor in here? No.
I could before, but I don't see it anymore.
Okay, well... So in the picture on the top of the duck, it does kind of look like it almost has a crown, so I can see where American Widgeon would come in.
That's kind of black ducks also sort of have that darker on the top.
Yeah, so we'll narrow it down to our top 5 here. Are we still... Oh, there we go. And then, so we got green-winged teal, blue-winged teal, mallard, American black duck, and mottled duck. So for me, when you see a brownish duck that has kind of just the black by the face and then kind of a dullish bill, that's normally a sign of either American black duck, mottled duck depending on location, or like a female mallard type thing.
Well, that color of the leg in the top picture as well is
So
very different.
In this specific instance, because we're in Florida and we're in summer, the species that it's most likely going to be is mottled duck. American black duck would be pretty rare in summer. I think they do occur in places in there in winter, so you do have to look out for both. But we went with mottled duck for these.
Mottled duck is always funny to me because if you were up here and one strayed this far north, you would have a heck of a time even thinking about looking for a mottled
especially
duck.
Because it'd be like such a rarity that
Well,
it'd be
it would
tough.
be probably mixed in with a bunch of manky mallards. And
right, and I'm sure there's a
hybrids.
bunch of rare stuff that comes through that looks so similar to other species that it just doesn't get picked out of the herd. So that's definitely a tough one for sure, but thanks, April, for submitting. Ducks from a distance are tough for me to ID, Alice Scott says. I often only get a quick look before it flies away or swims off a viewing range. That's true.
They can definitely be hard when they're in a big flock, too, during migration. You just get, like, the underside of them from a distance.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because, like, those sea ducks that come in, they, like, don't really want to be around people sometimes.
Yeah, they'll be a lot more timid than some of the other ones.
Yeah, it depends on the one. We got a bug in here. All right, next one is from Victorville, California. And so with the bird on the right, I actually enlarged the bill. So, Gabe, I enlarged the bill for you on this one. And I moved our picture out of the way for you. So, Victorville, California in summer. We have these 2 birds on the bird bath. Miss D submitted this, and I did crop the photo a bit just to make it a little bit bigger. So what are we thinking for this one, and what are some good ID features?
It would definitely be a lot harder if you just saw the female.
Yeah. Well, it depends on location.
Gabe appreciates you enlarging the bill.
And these, I actually saw my first one of these this year, actually.
So did I.
Oh, wow. Look at us.
Wasn't
In
even the
different
same
places,
one, yeah.
too. Where was yours? I'll tell you where mine was.
Badlands.
Okay, mine was in Louisiana. It was pretty rare for Louisiana. So we got some...
You think you're better than me with your Louisiana birds?
Suzette says, what? Not a Canada goose? I'm assuming that was referring to the last one and not this one.
I think it's this one.
We got some black-headed grosbeak coming in. We got black-headed grosbeak, I think, from Jack. So we'll narrow it down right away. So we got hooded oriole, rose-breasted grosbeak, house sparrow, black-headed grosbeak, and black-billed cuckoo as our answers here.
I'm kind of amused by the birds that are like that peach color. Because also like Smith's longspur has a very similar color pattern to this bird.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I enlarged the bill is because this particular species definitely has a thick, chunky bill. And that's a really good identifying feature. So originally when this question was submitted, they were thinking actually maybe a type of oriole on the right. But once you zoom in on the bill, you can see, yeah, it definitely says like, oh, that's probably an oriole. And a lot of the orioles have black on the face too. But you see the chunky bill, so they're actually the same species. And so for these, we do have the black-headed grosbeak. So seeing the male definitely helps. If you just saw the female, it's very similar to the rose-breasted, but they don't actually they don't actually go to California in this area during the summer. So definitely more likely to have black-headed, and especially with both of them together. That's our most likely answer here. So good job, guys. We'll go on to the next one. So this one is from Louisiana in the summer. This is one of mine. And woodpeckers can often be tricky. We'll narrow it down right away for people. So definitely a species of woodpecker with a stance on the tree, the black and white coloration. We got red cockaded woodpecker, downy woodpecker, hairy woodpecker, pileated woodpecker, and red-bellied woodpecker. And these are all native to Louisiana and would likely be around in the summer.
You're not even letting anybody say black round night heron.
They can say it. So we got a three-toed woodpecker. We got red cockaded or cockaded. Let's see. I was like this close to putting ivory-billed woodpecker on it, but I was like, I can't do it. What a reveal, though, if you did have a picture and you just slipped it in like a live stream
this is
ID
actually us revealing that we found an ivory-billed woodpecker.
Someone's going to take that clip and put you out of context.
That's fine. Whatever generates
Someone said looks like my aunt. I don't know if I think it's a very beautiful bird, so I got some questions about that. If I take my glasses off, it's an ivory-billed.
Obviously ivory-billed.
I shouldn't have said that.
Who in the chat thinks that Derek should take an expedition to look for an ivory-billed woodpecker?
Hey, we are doing ID right now. We need to stay focused here.
I'm waiting for it to start blowing up.
And then kind of a key, I guess, for this is you can kind of see the pines in the background, too.
It's starting to blow up. I think you need to do it.
All right, so with this one, a big part of the ID is definitely looking at the cheek. So big white cheek patch on this bird and surrounded by black there. And so this one is actually a red cockaded woodpecker. And so the red cockaded is actually named, a cockade was like a ribbon or like a little thing that went on hats, I believe. And so that's actually what they're named for. So the males have just a tiny, like almost invisible little part of red on their head. But definitely the big cheek patch eliminates, downy hairy. It doesn't have the like red crown for red-bellied.
I keep having to contain laughter seeing the things that Gabe and Jack put in the chat. They said they believe in you.
I appreciate it.
Well, Gabe said that. Jack didn't say he believes in you.
And then pileated would be much bigger with red on the head, too.
I always thought that
cockaded
would be a good insult for someone. Like, you know how they would always say, like, you red bell or yellow bellied,
like,
whatever.
you red cockaded son of a gun.
Yeah, exactly. There ain't room enough in this town for the two
bird,
of us.
it was actually like a specific expedition to go see these. So when we went out to look for them, it was like that was specifically our target because they're in very managed forest areas now, especially in Louisiana.
Did you find them to be a very different acting woodpecker because they live in family groups? So
right,
when
yeah.
I would see them, they would almost behave more like a songbird, how they would like fly and move around until they got on the tree and started going up the tree.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting environment to see them in. There were like a decent amount of them flying around because normally when you see other types of woodpeckers, you'll just see like one or two.
Yeah, you see like one land on a tree and work its way up, but these were constantly moving.
Yeah, and it seemed like they were active and then they kind of just stopped. So moving on to our next one here. We got, this is a tough one. So we're talking about these two birds in the middle here. I actually zoomed in on them and it doesn't really help that much.
No.
But time of year and everything and location is important for this one. So this is in Louisiana in the spring in a flooded, they would say crawfish pond, but crayfish pond. And this was it was actually a crazy sight because when I went to this location, I was looking for this bird and there were just tons of egrets and herons and spoonbills everywhere and laughing gulls. And it was this enormous chaos of like bird noises and stuff.
So far, we've gotten 3 guesses, and none of which are correct.
Well, you can't say that yet.
I want.
What do we have? What are our guesses?
We've got white-winged dove, followed by an I don't know.
Okay.
And then dowitcher, which short-bill versus long-bill dowitcher is a terrible bird to ID.
If these were dowitchers, it would be tough.
You probably wouldn't be able to tell. You could probably
barring. The best thing is by call, honestly, but I think the general rule is one is more in saltwater and one is more in freshwater. So if you don't see them during migration on the southern coast, you can kind of differentiate by that, but it's tough.
And then we've got duck.
Okay.
That's it. And then king rail. Oh, nature adventure jacks. I thought the bird on the side. That's why.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
Because we zoomed in on the bill almost, and that zoom in you did. Did you notice that?
What?
The way you zoomed in looks like it's zoomed in
on the bottom, on the gull.
Of the, yeah.
I'll hide that with our picture on the bottom. There we go. Out of the way.
Oh, Nature Adventures with Jack says Godwit.
Okay. All right, so we'll narrow it down here. So we got bar-tailed godwit, marbled godwit, Hudsonian godwit, red knot, or rusty blackbird.
Rusty Blackbird's kind of an out of left field guess.
Yeah,
there.
For a lot of these, I was tempted to just throw in something erroneous for like bald eagle or something. I should have put black-crowned night heron as a choice for all of them.
Well, you couldn't have known.
All right, so maybe a fulvous whistling duck. That's actually a pretty good guess. So this specific bird, I was looking for them because they were reported, and I did not see them. Like, I probably searched for like an hour and didn't see them, and I was about to leave, and then I was like, I know that they're in there somewhere, and I was able to see them on.
You summoned them with your sheer determination.
Somehow they ended up just being on the side of the field, and I was really lucky because if they were in the center, I wouldn't have seen them. So, in Louisiana, bar-tailed godwit is really rare. Not a duck. So, bar-tailed godwit is really rare, so we can kind of check that off. Red knots would definitely be smaller and more in the beach area. They're normally not in flooded like crawfish pond areas. They normally stick to like the beach areas.
Just based on the color, not in
very similar, right?
Yeah.
Marbled godwit also normally in the beach areas. Rusty blackbird, wrong shape, wrong habitat, wrong color. And so these are two Hudsonian godwits. And so in Louisiana, they only really come through in the spring, and if you do find them, they'll normally be in like the flooded field areas. This is like a decent amount of knowledge you would need to kind of pinpoint this. For me, I was specifically looking for them, so I was able to,
I'm starting to think that based on this, we should at some point do a high stakes version of this where people have to pay in $100.
It sounds very illegal.
I don't think that would be illegal.
Oh, we had people say Hudsonian, so yeah. And Hudsonians are pretty well known for that, like orangish color. And I do have some videos of these that are better than this, but this was a much more fun, like, ID quiz photo.
I don't have a whole lot of experience with godwits because we mostly just get marbled up here. And then in South Carolina, when I'm there, we get marbled. So I don't see a whole lot of Hudsonians.
Yeah. All right, moving on. So we got this one. This one is a really clear photo for you. This was in Louisiana in the spring, and it was in a forest near the ocean. So I'm very curious as to what you guys just have right off the bat. We got a loggerhead shrike.
Caden, do you have a picture of that bird that you might have gotten? Caden said he might have gotten one this year, but isn't
A
sure.
Hudsonian Gull?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
This is an interesting bird.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
This is another tough one.
Got Kiskadee, gray kingbird perhaps.
Okay.
Gray kingbird, loggerhead. And even if you don't know, feel free to just throw a guess in the chat, because I have never even seen this bird in real life before, so it's okay.
This is a tough one. So we got...
Oh, didn't you get a picture of the...
Oh, gotcha. All right, we'll narrow it down here. So we got Eastern Kingbird, Western Kingbird, Couch's Kingbird, Gray Kingbird, and Black Masked Kingbird.
So
we're
clearly kingbird.
going in on the Kingbird here.
When do you think Couch's kingbird wouldn't even be a real thing just based on that name?
I'm assuming it's named after somebody.
I'm assuming too. But
It'd be funny if it was
nobody
named
that I've
after
ever heard.
furniture.
It was somebody who was sitting on a couch when they saw it.
I want a sofa Kingbird.
Great kingbird from Tom.
Okay.
Tom, I'm happy you're able to make the live stream this time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Eastern Kingbird is the only thing I've ever seen looking close to that. Yep.
Yep, that was the boat that I was in as well. You want to tell them what they've won?
A high five.
Oh.
If we were in person. The beak looks thick for Eastern Kingbird.
That is very astute.
All right, so too thick of a bill to be an Eastern Kingbird.
Yep.
I feel like we'll give them another second because they're coming up with some good conclusions
working it
here.
out.
Yeah, this is another tough one.
This
though.
kind of feels like a thread on like Facebook ID group of the world where people just.
But
throw
it's
out-
real time.
Yeah, it's like real time.
You need some guy linking. There was like a Turns of North America page, and it seemed like it was a fake profile posted a picture of this shirt that said like North America Turns, and I feel like he just took the group name and switched the letters around and then put a picture of a tern on it. And then there was like another like almost like mechanical looking tern on the top, and he was just like, buy this merch, and he would just tag it in every
we should do
post. No. He would just tag it in every post, like at the bottom. Someone would be like, what tern is this? He would post his t-shirt link.
Fair says black masked kingbird after Google searching.
I thought I made that up, honestly.
You thought
Is
you
that
made
a real
up black
thing?
masked kingbird?
Yeah, I'm curious now.
You thought you just made up the name of the
I
bird?
was like, that seems like what it would be named. Is
You know,
that
it'd
a
be
real
a fun
bird?
video would be renaming birds with a more appropriate name.
Well, people want to do that. There's been a push to. There's no black masked kingbird.
Maybe it's slang.
Well, if you search that, other kingbird species pop up. All right, so this guy, the big key ID features are the time of year, the really thick bill, and the gray overall coloring. So this guy is a gray kingbird. This is a pretty rare species. One showed up in Louisiana on the coast. I actually saw this species originally in the Caribbean in Grenada. And so they definitely have that thick, like, almost kind of hooked at the end bill, but very sturdy, the black
It is
mask
kinda
and then the gray
shrike-y.
coloration. It looks very much like a shrike. I could definitely see where shrike would come from because it does have a really big head. So definitely location and time of year, and then in this case color, because Easterns look similar, but they'll be more purpley on the back as opposed to gray. And this can even be a tough bird to pick out if you know it's there and you're looking for it and you see Easterns. You're like, oh, is that it?
Yeah.
So that's a tough one, but we thought we'd throw in a good picture for you guys.
Nicholas said never heard of it, and I feel like that's something that's interesting is because
The gray or the black mask?
I don't know which, but I'm gonna assume gray. When you go to like a different part of the country and there's birds that look similar to ones you have, you know what I mean? And you see one and you assume like if you saw this, you might think, "Ooh, that's got to be an Eastern kingbird," because
or
you
a
don't know
loggerhead
that it
shrike.
exists.
I could see that too.
You know what I mean? Though?
Yeah, and that actually happened when I went to Grenada before I was really birding. They have like Zenata doves and things that like look similar to mourning doves.
Where you just like, that's a messed up looking morning.
Well, and then I think they also do have mourning doves. So
You
it
were
made
like,
it even
"That's an
more
actual
complicated.
mourning
There's a
dove."
lot of doves there. All right, we'll move on to the next one. This is a Wisconsin early spring bird.
It's a good one.
You can see it's on a tube feeder here with a little bit of tree in the background. So we'll take guesses for this one.
A little bit of tree in the background.
This is actually probably one of my favorite feeder birds, I would say.
The black-crowned night heron.
Yes.
Spinous?
We got a Spinous Pinus, which is...
Spinosaurus.
Yep. Is that a volcano emoji? I think that's a mind blown type thing, maybe. Or the world is ending. Quite eruptive. Oh.
That's a good one.
Pine siskin. Spinous Pinus is the scientific name for pine siskin, by the way.
Yep.
Especially this past year. Siskin. So we got a lot of pine siskin so far. So we'll narrow it down here. We got pine siskin, evening grosbeak, pine grosbeak, common redpoll, hoary redpoll. So I think we'll have you do the ID and reveal on this one.
This is like a gender reveal.
It's nothing like a gender reveal.
It feels exactly like a gender reveal. What if I just press it and it was just like, it's a point? So this one, definitely pine siskin. And some of the comments in the chat were alluding to the fact that it was eruptive and numerous this year, which it was. So it's part of the finches that come from the boreal forest. Their eruptive flight path and migration is based on food and what cone crops are available in the north. And these guys will show up at your feeders. And sometimes, if you haven't seen one for a while, they can look a little bit similar to a house finch or a purple finch, depending on their plumage, depending on what has been around lately. So pine siskin on this one, but it's a bird that if you don't look closely, you could miss or confuse.
I normally see them
finch.
mixed in with the goldfinches too, and especially when the goldfinches are not in their summer plumage, in the winter they look a lot similar.
Yeah.
But definitely the streak breast is a big feature, and they make that like, would you say it's like a zipper call?
It's like
they make
a really
call.
high-pitched kind of chirpy
I feel
call.
like with the winter finches, oftentimes you'll hear something different. You'll be like, that sounds like
That
high-pitched.
sounds weird, yeah.
Yeah, how do you describe winter finch calls in general? Like high-pitched and kind
Chattery,
of like
high-pitched
chattery.
and chattery,
Yeah.
I think.
And so oftentimes you'll hear that, and sometimes you'll just get one mixed in with your goldfinches at the feeder. Like, I think that's what happened to us in this one. So good job, everyone, pine siskin on this one.
Sweet.
Sweet. All right, this one was in Wisconsin in spring. This was my photo, but our friend Rob sent us a photo of the same species that was almost the same exact photo, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, this is a good one because I'm pretty sure if this species was in a clear picture, it would be very obvious what it is. But because of the blurring and some of the ways the branches are in front of it, it becomes a little more challenging.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys haven't already, make sure to like this video so we can help us reach some more people after we finish the live stream and send it out into the world. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so if you enjoy our content.
If you haven't subscribed, how dare you?
So we got blue-winged or prothonotary warbler, blue-winged warbler, warbler species. So Nicholas is
he's on the warbler species
train. So it's interesting that we have people saying warbler right away. So that's good. You can tell it's a fairly small bird based on the size of kind of the tree branches.
What are some other things other than warblers you could see this potentially getting mis-ID'd?
Vireos.
Maybe a yellow-throated vireo.
Mm-hmm. I think vireos for sure.
I could almost see...
Goldfinch, maybe?
I could see something like a female scarlet tanager.
Someone says, I see a bit of white on wing, which alludes to blue-winged. I love it when people put, like, how they came to the conclusion in the comment.
Yeah.
Blue-winged warbler, yellow warbler, are one of many female warbler species. First of all, I definitely like warbler season in the spring better than in the fall because all the males are colored up, and it's so much easier to tell them apart than it is in the fall.
They look so different. I also like how we got a bunch of new faces in the chat when we have a warbler picture.
People do.
Everyone's just like sitting there like, oh, warbler, and then jumped on.
No, people like the black-crowned night heron. That's the fan favorite.
Is it?
I don't know.
Is it?
All right, so we'll narrow it down here. So we got Kirtland's warbler, prothonotary warbler, golden wing warbler, blue wing warbler, and yellow warbler.
So
I think
really
I pretty much included what people have thought this might be.
So kind of narrowed it down to almost every warbler in our area that is yellow.
Yellow, yeah. Well, magnolia is not on there.
Yeah.
palm's
that would be
not
very
on there.
striated on the underside. Palm would be a little bit more brown, so people did a good job with that. And then the thing you have to look for next is definitely that gray wing.
So you can see a little bit of the wing. You can kind of see the bill. All right, so
Gender reveal.
go ahead.
I thought you were going to do it. It is a blue-winged warbler, and that was a very astute observation about the white on the wing.
We can do a gender reveal because it's a male.
Hey. Are they
Good
sexually
job, little buddy.
dimorphic?
I think they are. I'll look it up.
I don't know that I've ever seen a distinctly female one.
Let's see. We'll
But
find
I
out.
do know that this is a species that hybridizes with golden-winged warblers to produce Brewsters and Lawrences.
All right, so you can go over the ID tips here.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I forgot who it was. I think it might have been Caden. Yeah, Caden said white on the wing, which is definitely correct. And then you can see a little bit of that black mask on the otherwise just yellow bird. Did you find anything out about male versus female? I think that we need to have a bird gender reveal.
Oh, did you
video.
talk about the eye yet?
Mask over the eye? Yeah, I mentioned it.
Yeah, well, definitely that branch being in the way is really tough.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best. Let's move on to another species. This one was taken in Wisconsin in wintertime, with these two kind of tucking themselves up. And I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely had issues before with a bird that was just so tucked in that you couldn't see ID features.
All right, so it says females are often paler than males with a grayer eye line and a more olive crown, but some are not separable from males, so we can't do gender reveal. I know.
The dream dead.
That was from allaboutbirds.org.
Nice.
So. All right, yeah, this is a tough one. What are you guys thinking for this one? We got Ruddy Duck.
Should we do a bucks check?
Sure, let's do a bucks check.
69 to 55.
Ooh, I'm liking it. See, it's
news.
whenever we don't watch.
Yep. Good thing we decided to do the ID tips live stream.
Got another Ruddy Duck vote. So this is definitely a tough. I'm going to narrow it down right away. So we got Black Scoter, Ruddy Duck, Common Loon, Blue-winged Teal, and Eurasian Widgeon. So originally based on size and shape, we can eliminate Common Loon. So this is in winter, so Common Loons would definitely be grayer in coloration. And then blue-winged teals wouldn't likely be around in winter. Eurasian widgeon is, I don't even know why I picked Eurasian widgeon, but Eurasian widgeon is pretty rare. What? No.
It's just like, I'm going to put in Eurasian widgeon.
Easy. Eurasian widgeon is pretty rare and would have red on the head, at least in summer. I think we've only ever had them come in summer. I don't think they've ever come in the winter.
Spring and summer.
So a question we got about, I think the first video we made. What? We had some birds out there that were black scoters, and people were like, "Oh, aren't those ruddy ducks?" And they actually look really what? They actually look really similar when they're tucked in because you have that dark on the top and then like lighter below on the face. They're kind of tough to tell apart. And that's one where size is going to be a big factor. Where if they're next to other birds and they seem a lot smaller, Ruddy Duck
when
is
they're
smaller.
out,
especially when the waves are going up and down too.
Yeah, I think that Black Scoter Ruddy Duck could potentially be confused with each other if you just get a quick look at it.
All right, so we got 5 Ruddy Duck comments. So yeah, you guys are right. These are Ruddy Ducks.
Adventures of Jack made it a point to say he loves Ruddy Duck's stiff tails.
Yeah, they're often very like cute, unique little guys. So.
Yeah. They're very compact.
But definitely keep an eye out for black scoters, too, if they're in the area, because they can look very similar in their winter plumage, for sure. All right, we got, this is from Animal Adventures with Jack, sent this in. So this is from New Jersey. And so this is another one where the heads are tucked in, so it's a little bit tough. So what do you guys think?
We'll see if Jack
tries
to answer his own.
Well, some of these I wasn't sure if people knew the answer and they were sending it to see if we did, or if they were actually, some said, I don't know what this is, but I'm curious. So, oh, Jack says he's not going to say. So,
okay, got it.
So we got northern pintail.
There was one bird I saw at Horicon.
Oh, Jack says he does know. So
yeah, that was a northern pintail. That was horrible to identify just because of how the head was turned. It looked so funky because it was tucked in and you just couldn't tell if it was a cormorant.
Northern pintail because of brown head. Definitely when birds are tucked in, shorebirds will do that a lot, where they'll tuck their head in, and they'll all look very similar, just slightly different sizes.
Swans are a bad one with that because the bill and head shape are such a big determining factor when they're tucked in, or also Snow and Ross's geese sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can definitely be tough. All right, so we'll narrow it down here. We got Gadwall, blue-winged teal, northern shoveler, northern pintail, and green-winged teal.
Is anybody going to do any 4th of July birding, by the way? Anybody have a big 4th of July birding trip planned? I think that would be a fun tradition to go on a 4th of July bird trip.
No, it does. So let's see if we can eliminate some of these, right? So the ones that we've narrowed down to are all ducks of some kind. Oh, Jack's doing a 4th of July thing.
Where are you going, Jack?
So we can kind of eliminate the 2 teal species just because of the coloration. Definitely have a more gray coloration on those males with the browner head, and you can see some of the white kind of coming up into the head too, and that is very characteristic of the northern pintail, which I think we were pretty much all in agreement for northern pintail, so everyone got that one. The males are pretty distinctive, so when you get to see the males, it's, pretty good.
Yeah, nothing else really looks like them when they're just standing there.
Maybe like widgeons, kind of.
With that brown head.
Yeah, they're pretty distinctive, so that was a cool one.
Altoir, I'm going to see some piping plovers.
Oh, that sounds awesome. We have some recent hatchlings. First time in 80 years in Ohio. That's awesome.
Cool. Jack's going to the far north New Jersey and getting grebes, gallinule, sapsuckers, bitterns, rails, and ruffed grouse.
That sounds like fun. All right, so we got the northern pintail. Moving on to the next one, another one that Jack submitted from New Jersey. This one is fairly camouflaged here, so
he's doing a good job.
He or she. I think there's another one where you can't tell, right?
I feel like I need to.
Or you might be able to by the collar.
I think there's a little bit of a difference, but it's not a noticeable dimorphism.
What are you guys thinking for this one? We got a killdeer right away.
Wasn't there a book or something that somebody made called Birding from Below or Behind?
I think so, yeah.
About like identifying birds just from the rump.
Or was that just something Spence was talking about?
I don't remember. I thought somebody actually made it.
Okay, we got
somebody
killdeer.
just said kill. Just aggressively kill.
Killdeer because of orange eye ring. That's a good, nice ID feature to look at.
Yeah.
We'll narrow it down right away. So we got killdeer, northern lapwing, piping plover, semi-palmated plover, and dunlin.
Northern lapwing would be a cool bird.
That would be a cool bird. Or is it this one?
Charadrius vociferus. I don't even know if that's the...
Kill the deer. Is that a shot at the bucks, Gabe? I hope it's not. All right, so this one is probably one of the easier ones, despite the camouflage. We got a killdeer here. So very distinctive with the eye ring and the black coloration on the face. Oftentimes, I think these are trickier when you see them mixed in with other shorebirds. When they're by themselves,
when you hear them.
Well, yeah, when you hear them.
But
too,
when you see them just sitting there and you haven't seen one for a while, or
sometimes they can.
You have that second where you're like, "What is that?" You know what else does that to me all the time is pigeons when they fly.
Well, they come in a lot of different.
I'm just like, "What is that?"
So we got the killdeer here, and they're very known for doing the broken wing display. So if you get too close to their nest, oftentimes the female will go and fake a broken wing to get you to move away from the chicks. And I also learned that like Wilson's plovers will do that too. Yep. So it's actually not just killdeer, but killdeer was the one that I always learned was
family, though.
The one. I don't know. I don't think all plovers do it.
Not all, but it seems like that's the most likely group that does it.
All right, we got this one, another one from New Jersey. We'll take your thoughts in the chat about this one right away. A little bug.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Is this one also from Jack?
It is. Yeah, Jack sent us a bunch, so we picked out some of the ones that we thought we'd include. So thanks for sending Jack, and everyone else who sent photos. Thanks for sending them over to us.
I feel like this is a good one because there's 2 species that look fairly similar to this in overlapping areas.
So Jack says rough-winged swallow. I've held a chick right across the street from me at the ball fields. Held or had?
It says held.
Rough-winged swallow.
I don't know what that means.
bank or northern rough-winged swallow?
Yep, that's the conundrum.
Why don't you tell us about how to separate those two?
So both of these are swallows that are going to have that overall gray coloration, whereas
Brown, I would say.
Gray-brown. Whereas every other bird that usually is in the area with that same swallow figure is going to be blue, is going to be green, is going to be usually those two. It was like, is there anything else? I was going to say the buffy underside of the barn swallow and cliff swallow. But the way you can tell these two apart is the bank swallow is going to have that kind of belt of darker color around the top of the chest near the throat. And the rough wings are just going to be uniform or a little shaded.
So Nicholas actually said it doesn't have the chest band of a bank.
Yep.
It's pretty distinctive on the bank. Also, where they're coming out from can also tell you, because bank will often live in these colonies, like the side of bluffs and stuff.
They will. That doesn't mean that rough wings won't be in the same area, but
swallows
I've seen
will often
before
mix.
they'll all just go into the little cavity that they nest in.
Oh, what about chimney swifts? What's a good way for
Chimney
the viewers
swifts
to
have
differentiate them?
Well, you'll never see them sitting like this because they'll like to be inside
they
of hollowed out
basically
logs
have
and
to
chimneys.
perch like this on the side of something. They can't just perch normal.
And then when you see them flying, they have that different shape. They have kind of like a boomerang shape.
They
to the
look.
wings.
I've heard them described as a flying cigar.
Yeah.
So definitely more distinctive with the swifts versus the swallows. So this one is indeed a northern rough-winged swallow.
Birding with Nick and Quinn say hi.
Hello.
Hi back. Good to have you.
We have a photo from them. Or was that one we already did? There's one in here somewhere from them. All right, this is another one from New Jersey. I like this one a lot too. The box actually almost perfectly matches the color of the sky in this too.
Yeah.
All right, what are we thinking for this one? This is a kind of a tricky one.
Black crown night heron?
Oh, maybe.
Oh, could be.
We'll narrow it down. Oh, it's in there.
Oh, what a conundrum. It made its way back around.
It's all coming together.
So, you know how there's sightings of pterosaurs all across the world from time to time?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like these may be partially responsible.
It's possible.
This is a very dinosaur-looking bird.
So we got GBHE, great blue heron.
I get at least one a day fly over my house. It does seem like these fly in the same path because there's one that goes over the freeway that I see on the way to work all the time.
Maybe you think it's the same one every day.
It's like doing the usual daily commute just as I'm doing the usual daily commute.
Great blue.
Great blue.
Nobody's going with black crown yet. I guess, why? Why do you think it's a gray blue?
What if it was a gray heron?
Have
the
you
gray
heard
blue
the call?
calls? Yeah, they're hilarious.
Gray heron actually looks super similar to
Yeah.
great blue.
Where's the range for those?
I think they're European, that area.
That would be if we did a gotcha bird.
Well, it says New Jersey on it, so. Also, Jack sent it to us. Right, yeah, it does have long legs. So that if you look at the long legs, they kind of, and you can see enough of the neck under the wing that it would basically rule out green heron, probably the smaller ones. But also that patch on the wing where you see the blue and then you see like the lighter grayish blue too. That's definitely characteristic. So we got great blue heron.
So there's
here.
this crazy picture that's out there on the internet of a great blue heron that tried to eat an eel, and the eel somehow got
like
out
was hanging
from
out
the
of
throat.
its throat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a fun time.
And the heron was just like going about its business.
All right, so this is our next one. I may try to make this one bigger. We'll see.
Someone guessed tricolored too. That was a fairly decent guess.
I've noted tricoloreds, I feel like you can see more colors on them in flight versus a gray blue. They have more than three, I would say.
Plus, I don't know how often they get up to New Jersey. I know that they're mostly
But I also
southern.
feel like when I see them, they're definitely smaller than a gray blue for sure.
So this, I would say, is a tough one.
So we got water thrush, Louisiana water thrush, blurry though. Louisiana water thrush because streaks and pink legs. Louisiana water thrush, white eyebrow.
Tricolored down the shore in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. Possibly northern.
Mm-hmm.
So this is so right away. If we narrow it down, we got
Northern wheat eater.
yeah, we got Louisiana and northern water thrush. So these two guys look very similar. You have the brown coloration overall with some type of a white or cream eyebrow and then white streaking on the stomach, or I guess brown streaking on the stomach with either a white or kind of creamy colored stomach. So a lot of people saying Louisiana. So we got more coming in.
That's pretty much it. They've kind of stopped.
So with Louisiana versus northern, kind of the main thing is people think that northerns have a little more yellow on the stomach versus like a Louisiana is going to be more white. Mm-hmm. And definitely some differentiation with kind of the shape of the head too. So this one was kind of a tricky one that we went back and forth on. So for this one, we were thinking northern, but it's a really tough call.
Yeah, and the blurry factor doesn't help either with the image.
I feel like the image isn't that blurry.
It's not that blurry, but with the streaking on the side, blurriness of the streaking is one of the ID factors. Did we decide we were going to go northern for this one?
We were leaning northern on this one.
Yeah, we leaned northern on this one, but we would be open to it also being in Louisiana. We went back and forth on it.
Yeah, so this is one that we could kind of go either way on, but it's a tough one. I think for me, it might be the lighting playing a trick, but the stomach looks more yellow versus the white on a Louisiana, which would be like fairly bright. So we were going northern on this one, but it could also be a Louisiana. Jack, do you have any more photos of this one?
Jack said someone told him Louisiana, but there were northerns there as well.
Okay, so it's possible.
If you did have some more pictures, that definitely could be helpful. And we could also share it with some of our friends, too, who are eBird reviewers, and they could give us a definitive answer. So
yeah, so definitely a tough one, northern versus Louisiana. And legit Louisiana, like the actual state.
You're like, the real Louisiana.
Louisiana water thrushes breed in the north. So they'll migrate through the south, and then they'll breed there, but I don't think the northerns breed in the northern part.
Oh, really?
So they'll just go through. So you can kind of get them on their breeding grounds.
He says he thinks he can send some.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Well, if we find anything else about it, we'll post it in the comments of this and pin it to the top. White eyebrows, Louisiana sign. That's true. All right, so this is from Texas in the summer. Our friend Rob sent us this one, and it is a little bit dark. For some of these, we're not going to do it now because we don't want to mess with everything, but if you're able to lighten up the photo, you can see the colors a little bit better.
This one, I would say the shape is a big factor in making the ID decision.
Mm-hmm. Definitely tail shape, I would say, is huge.
Got kite species. Kite, maybe Mississippi.
So, let's say
Osprey.
Hypothetically, like,
Want to say Mississippi kite.
We just went through Texas and we didn't know anything about, what what birds were there. So we like, if we can say that's a kite shape and we just look up kite species Texas, right? Like coming from no knowledge. So it just gives us a list right away. Mississippi kite, swallow-tailed kite, white-tailed kite, snail kite. I don't do snail kites occur in Texas. That's interesting.
I don't know.
So, that gives us a couple options to look into if we think about like, oh, maybe Mississippi kite, swallow-tailed kite, white-tailed kite, and that can also help you narrow it down too. So we got Mississippi kite. Someone said I've never seen a kite.
Kites are interesting. I hadn't seen one until we went to Oklahoma with our friend Alex.
Mm-hmm. Someone said osprey.
Shape is osprey-ish.
Oh, Jack sent us the other two photos of the water thrush. Sweet. We can pull those up too. So
Do it like you did last time where you just stick the phone in front.
Whatever works, right? All right, so with this one, the shape is a big indicator. And so narrowing it down, we got swallowtail kite, Mississippi kite, snail kite, Cooper's hawk, and sharp-shinned hawk. So definitely the shape is more kite-like versus hawk-like.
Especially the sharp-shinned and the Cooper's hawk would have that long accipiter tail.
Also, the tail would be banded on both. It wouldn't just be one color. So we can knock those out right away. There are Mississippi kites sometimes nest in New Hampshire. That's cool. Rarest bird I found was a swallowtail kite. I love swallowtail kites. They're gorgeous
We
birds.
actually made a video about the swallowtail kite that we found. I think
we didn't find it, but we went to see it.
Well, yeah, we went to see
And
it.
there
What do we call it? Like the coolest bird?
It was.
Is this the coolest bird on the planet?
People stated that it was like the coolest bird on the planet.
Do you agree?
It's really cool. I don't know if I would say it's the coolest. I need to see all the birds on the planet, and then I'll let you know.
Are you saying you're going to do that?
So Cooper's hawk, sharp-shinned hawk out. Snail kite's a very specialist bird with a very hooked bill. I don't think their range is into Texas because they feed on apple snails. Although apple snails are moving west, so we're seeing if they kind of move over as well. So that brings us between Mississippi kite and swallowtail kite. Swallowtail kite would have a very long forked tail. And so this one is indeed a Mississippi kite. They're going to be gray overall. They have that really blocky tail. The tail looks very triangular when you see it, and that's a big ID feature, in my opinion, when I see them flying through. So Mississippi kite on this one for sure.
I'm going to check out Wyoming Adventures said that they're not sure if they have kites in Wyoming. I'm going to take a look and see
at
if
the
they
range.
do have any.
So that's something that eBird is useful for, is definitely checking the range of species to see if they're in your state. So for this one, we definitely have the Mississippi kite. So good job to everyone who said Mississippi. And, a lot of these are also area specific. So if you're not super familiar with like birds of Texas, that would definitely help out with these. And so it's location specific as well. So this is one from Wisconsin in the summer. So this is definitely kind of a tricky one. It's another one where it kind of matches the color of the text box on this. You're working very diligently over there.
I got to find answers for Wyoming Adventures. Plus, I'm just interested. There's Louisiana or Mississippi swallow-tailed snail.
There's a bunch of different kites.
West,
there's white-tailed kite.
Zone-tailed
hawk. I don't think there's zone-tailed kite. Can you pop into the chat when you have a second?
Yeah.
All right, what do we have here? We got coop. Swallowtail kite used to breed in Wisconsin. That'd be cool.
I think that's true. I'd heard that.
Cooper's hawk, turkey vulture. So turkey vulture definitely wouldn't have those barred wings where you can see the wingtips have the lines on them. Turkey vulture would have just the white and black like main coloration on there. Not really anything barred like this. We'll narrow it down here. So we got Cooper's hawk, sharp-shinned hawk, red-tailed hawk, prairie falcon, or merlin are our answers here. While you guys type that in, I'm going to take a look at these water thrush photos real quick.
So far, I've not found any kites that live in Wyoming, by the way. We'll try black.
You found no Wyoming kites yet?
Not yet.
Well, you were in Wyoming, weren't you?
I've been there, and I did not see any kites. Black kite's not even a North American species.
So you're saying probably not any kites in Wyoming? Is
Somebody that
concluded?
lives out west may know more.
Can we pop in the chat again?
Yeah.
All right, we got possible goshawk. Call them sharp-shinned sharpies and Cooper's coops. Huh.
We call them coop of the day. Like coupe du jour.
Coopers, long tail means accipiter. A lot of turkey vultures here, I bet. So Sharpie or Coopers, yeah.
Yes.
So the long tail and kind of the bar, you actually can't see the barring like on the tail feathers in this one. This would be another one that'd be helpful to lighten.
I've gotten
but I don't
so
wanna
many
mess with it.
pictures like this where I take a shot of it and I'm like, I'm definitely gonna be able to ID it based off this, and the whole thing is a silhouette, and I'm like, oh.
So with this, it's really hard to tell, but you can see a little bit of a dark cap on this, which is a sign of Coopers, and also the head doesn't look super tiny. On sharp-shinned hawks, their heads look really minuscule.
Yeah.
So this one we have here is a Coopers. Also the season, Coopers seem to be around year-round. We see less Sharpies in the summer.
We really only see them migratorily, and then occasionally in winter.
Yeah, so this guy's a Coopers here. Especially that long tail is a pretty good feature to say it's probably a Coopers or a sharp-shinned.
You hear that firework that just went off?
I did. So we got Coopers. All right.
I like this one.
So this is the one I took in Wisconsin in the winter on the Lake Michigan coast. So what do you guys think about for this one? I thought this was a cool picture.
It's very angelic.
It's actually pretty clear. I had to screenshot it from something else, so it's a little blurry. But
from a video?
No, it's complicated.
Oh.
I don't want to talk about it.
Ivory Gull.
The Ivory Gull.
There was an Ivory Gull that was up in Duluth that Rob went to see. And we have funny back and forth about it on one of our first of the year videos. Iceland Gull. Glaucous Gull. We're running the Gull Gambit.
The Gull Gambit.
What would you do if I said leucistic great horned owl? Leucistic
like
black
it.
vulture.
No.
Have you ever seen the northern subspecies great horned owl?
Yes. They're really cool. The
cool
boreal.
bird, yeah. Nature with Gabe says not a laughing gull.
Okay. Narrowing it down. There's so many laughing gulls in the south. It's ridiculous.
That's true. They're rare up here, so when one gets reported, it's...
Was that ivory
ideal.
at Canal Park?
It was at Canal Park.
Not this particular bird, but there
But
was
that
an ivory
we
gull
were
at
talking
Canal
about in
Park.
Duluth was at Canal Park. Big
news about the Mew Gull today.
I didn't hear any news. Share
I
with
was
us
gonna-
the news, Quinn.
Jack says I was gonna say something about the first year vids when it's an ivory gull
Yes.
with a rock going, at Canal
Exactly.
Park, you better go see it. Speaking of that video, every time somebody posts pictures of a Hammond's flycatcher, I just think Hammond's.
I know, me too. I hope we get to the point one day where people just have shirts with our quotes on it, like Rob Pendergast quote shirts. You want to narrow it down?
Yeah.
Mew Gull, Ross's Gull,
I feel
Iceland
like-
Gull, Ivory Gull, Rock Pigeon. You know, that one, they come in all white.
I feel like that didn't help us very much.
No.
We did take out Laughing Gull, though.
Well, the only thing anyone said about that is it's not a laughing gull. We just validated
Right,
them.
so yeah, it's not.
Leucistic laughing gull, though, would have been something.
This one's not really like a trick one, though, you know?
Yeah.
It's a tough one, though.
Nature with Gabe's got to run. Gabe, why do you have to say go Hawks?
Oh, we were going to look at your photo you sent at the end, Gabe. Because I could only put it at the... I couldn't do it like this, but we're going to take a look at it, so it'll be in the replay.
I sent the link to that video to my Hammond.
All right, you want to take this one away?
Yeah, sure. So this one is an Iceland gull. You can tell by the bill shape, it's a little daintier, a little bit smaller, and then the overall more elegant appearance with the longer wings that if you could see the bird sitting would extend long beyond the tail. And Iceland and Glaucous would be the two that would most likely be. It would be extremely rare for an ivory gull to be on the Lake Michigan coast or really anywhere in the Midwest. So this one is Iceland. Tough ID though. Definitely good suggestions with all the different birds that could be pretty much all white. So next one, this is a tough one. You might have to zoom in on this one.
So this is, yeah, we will for sure. So this is the one that Gabe sent. He sent a couple pictures, but I picked one of them, and at first I was like, there's no way we're going to be able to tell anything. But the quality is good enough that when you zoom in, you can kind of make out particular birds. So I'm going to zoom in
Yeah, I have so many pictures like this where I just like see a ton of shorebirds or a ton of gulls, and I just take pictures and I'm like, I'll look at them later. Again, thinking that I'll be able to identify them, and then I go look later and I can't identify them because of how blurry it is.
All right, so we'll magnify this big time. Oh, geez. Maybe I'll crop it first. Shorebirds are definitely tricky. I think shorebirds are harder than warblers to ID, because a lot of people say, oh, warblers are like the hardest thing to ID, but I think shorebirds are a lot harder.
I think shorebirds are more difficult as well, and I feel like you can get more rusty at shorebirds.
I'm just going to blow this thing up as big as I can. It's probably easier not on PowerPoint, honestly. We're getting there.
Wow.
But that's what I'm saying, like the quality of the photo is good enough where we should actually be able to make out some individual birds here. I think one more
blow up.
One more, yeah. There we go. All right. So these here, can you see my cursor now?
It's still working on it. It's lagging a little bit.
Gulls are difficult. Someone said gulls are a lot more difficult in my opinion. I think if you...
With the different cycling and the juveniles and stuff like that can be hard. I think if you had to like an adult of each and you put one out in front of you, they'd be easier to identify.
Kane said reedgrass bird, my favorite. Oh, Nicholas said lake and reeds, my favorite bird. You guys are all on the same page.
They're both trying to get sarcastic with us here.
All right, can you see the cursor in this? Yeah, I think you can. So this guy here looks like he's bigger than this bird here. And so this strikes me as either a American golden plover or a black-bellied plover.
Semi-palmated sandpiper on the right, someone says.
Semi-palmated sandpiper or plover?
It says sandpiper.
Okay. So this guy strikes me as probably a black-bellied plover being on the coast. I find the American goldens are more in the like flooded field areas, not as much on the coast, and they definitely have a bulkier bill, and this looks like it's a pretty big bill. Again, it's really hard to tell. This guy here looks like a semi-palmated plover to me, and a lot of the times the semi-palmated plovers can almost look like piping plovers, but if you see like 50 of them, it probably is more likely a semi-palmated than a piping.
And more plentiful black.
And they're
usually
smaller and not as like, not that piping plovers are bulky, but they seem more streamlined. The semi-palmated plovers.
I would call them stumpy.
Which one?
I would call the semi-palmated plover stumpy.
So we got probably another black-bellied here.
Yeah, Wyoming Adventures, I feel you with the shorebirds. Up here we get, especially the sandpipers, we get semi-palmated sandpipers, and we get white rump sandpipers, bairds, and it's always the little ID features.
So we've got another plover here. And then these appear like they're probably semi-palmated plovers. It's definitely possible there's something like a piping in here that's harder to pick out.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's semi-palmated sandpipers in there too.
Yeah, like this looks like it might be a smaller bird too here.
I would guess that some of those to the left of that even might be leasts.
And again, there's only going to be so much you can make out. And another one of the pictures, there were killdeer in here too. So it's good to definitely take a lot of photos. And sometimes you get one where the angle is just right and you can make it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's some birds that's easier to tell too. So, like, if there was a Wilson's phalarope out there, you'd probably be able to see some of the colors if it was a female.
Though, for sure.
You'd at least. I have a picture that's very similar to this, where you can see that orangey and then bluish colors of the Wilsons. I might have to dig that one out for next time. We can look at it.
Yeah, Quinn said black-bellied. I think black-bellied with this one. So, this is one of the pictures from that Gabe sent us. So this is actually a really good like. This is probably what you're going to get if you take photos of shorebirds from long range. So it's definitely tough. So a really cool one to kind of pick through and see. So sometimes you can only pick out so much, but it's good to also, get second opinions on stuff too. And then Jack sent us this one too. So
is this our last one?
This is our last one.
Oh.
We did get some later on that people sent that I'll probably have to just hold my phone on the screen and have people look at. But
either that or we could save them for another day.
Yeah, we could. What do you guys think about this one? We got a Mockingbird.
We'll do a buck score check. 102 to 91. 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
I like it.
I like it too. Another vote for Mockingbird.
Another vote for Mockingbird. Oh, I should make this full screen. Sorry about that. I'll move this.
Another vote for Mockingbird. Mockingbirds are everywhere here. Yeah. Anytime I go to the south, they're everywhere. Are they everywhere in Louisiana?
They sure are.
Yeah.
And they sing at night. There's one
Really?
that lives outside my apartment that loves to call at night. It doesn't really bother me, though. All right, so we got Mockingbird in this one. So some good things with Mockingbirds. This one I feel like has more of a curved bill than most Mockingbirds I saw.
Yeah, he almost has that curved thrasher-y type bill.
But, Mockingbird. So normally you have two pretty prominent wing bars, that tail that really sticks up, and they love to do the tail flick, and they'll be very common in these areas. So northern Mockingbird with this one. I'm gonna actually stop sharing the screen. So that's all we had for the presentation part, but we had some people submit some. So I'm gonna try to hold them up and see what's the best way to do this. These are from Murdog3, and you said I have some decent ones here. Pretty much know what most are, but it will still be neat to see guys try an ID. All were taken within the past 2 to 3 weeks in Cleveland, Ohio, mostly at the Cleveland Lakefront Nature Preserve. If you're ever in town, I suggest you stop by. Relatively new, about 2 years to birding. Channels like yours help immensely. Keep up the great work, guys. Well, thanks so much for the email. And so this is the first one here. So this is going to be, can you even see anything? You can kind of see it. I think people can ID from this. What do you
I'm
think?
waiting for it to pop up on the actual channel. It seems like it's very lagged now.
This is like double difficulty with picture of picture.
Yeah. Also, Caden says next one we should include a willow or alder flycatcher.
We have
That's
to
the
include an
nightmare.
audio component.
Yeah. I heard that there's some people that are actually able to tell the difference, allegedly. But I don't know if that's true.
So we got yellow-breasted chat, yellow-throated vireo.
I think that would be the big choice.
You know what? I think let me pull these up on the computer, and I'll just share the screen then, because I didn't want people seeing people's email addresses, but if... Oh, yeah, I guess I have that same issue. I guess we have to do the phone then, because it's screen sharing everything. So if I pull it up, it'll show up. So we got maybe pine, juvie common yellowthroat, yellow-throated vireo. So this one is indeed a yellow-throated vireo. Chat is a pretty good guess. Chat would have a little bit of a bigger bill, although
it's hard to tell when the phone
yeah,
is
you
all
can
up.
see a little bit of the eye ring where it's yellow surrounding the eye there. And so that's a pretty, definitive feature for yellow-throated vireo. And that yellow, fading into kind of the
Juvie common yellowthroat was a good guess, and maybe pine
yeah, and
was
then
also a good guess.
chat I believe would have more of that eye ring.
Yeah, they have a little bit of an eye ring.
Yeah, and I think a bigger bill too.
They have a
They're definitely
beefy
like
bill.
bulky. They look bulkier than most other warbler type species. Jack said you should do this again or on a schedule, and Wyoming Adventure said I agree, do this again. Maybe pine, somebody said. Yeah, pine warbler would be another good guess for that.
Very similar color pattern.
All right, we got some swallows here.
Let me try.
I don't think I can focus it any better.
Yeah.
That looks pretty good.
Nature Adventure Jack said fireworks are annoying when trying to listen for night birds.
Wyoming Adventure said I have 3 male western tanagers at my feeder. That sounds awesome. Can I come visit?
Yeah.
Tom said great presentation, guys. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks everyone for sticking around to watch. We have a good time interacting with you guys.
Tree swallow, tree or roughwing, tree, swallow, tree. I like how it just shortens.
Yeah.
All right, what do you think about this one?
Looks like tree swallows to me. There's no underside markings at all.
The chest looks really white which is pretty. And the back looks almost bluish more as opposed to like a rough wing.
You'll get some of these when they're juveniles where they have more of like a brownish or grayish back, and it can be a little bit
females too, I would say.
But then the rough-winged swallows would have more of like the buffy gray underside.
Yeah, so we're going with tree swallows on these two. And then we got... Wow, there's actually a bunch in here. We'll do one more. Actually, we'll do two more. Two more from this section, because these are actually really good ones. All right, how about this one? It's like a Loch Ness Monster birding challenge. We devolved into emojis on the tree swallow.
Yep.
Oh, tell your daughter thanks, Tom. We really appreciate it.
You got hooded merg, red-breasted merg,
Ruddy Duck,
merg, hooded merg. People are saying hooded merg or red-breasted merg.
What I like about these is like this is like real life.
What do you mean?
Like in the bird book, you have all these perfect photos, but this is what you get. You get a grainy photo from a distance.
Well, it's funny because you can put like the worst photo up on like a bird ID site, and somebody will have some idea as to what it is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. All right, so for this guy, I would say hooded merganser. It's pretty much all brown. The head is pretty defined. I'm not seeing anything that would make me think like red-breasted with any like green like a male would have, or like the reddish bill on a female.
Yeah, it has a crest going.
Yeah, the crest is very defined on this one. Ruddy Duck's kind of an interesting answer. Definitely wouldn't have the hood on a Ruddy Duck though, but that tail I could see where that would come into play there.
The stiff tail that someone was talking about earlier.
Yeah. So we're going hooded merganser on this one. I feel like hooded mergansers will also like stick around in other seasons too. Like I'll just see one every once in a while.
When they're migratory.
All right, we will do one more from Mike who sent these in. So we got this one.
I think I have some somewhere that are super challenging that we could get to if we wanted to do again. Like there's some that I don't think I've even ID'd yet. We can make everyone else ID them. Red-shouldered. Do you think the last name is really Nicholas's last name?
Who knows?
That'd be pretty epic. Someone said Coop. Two more for red shoulder.
All right. What do you think for this one?
That looks like a pretty definitive red shoulder. It might be harder to see through the computer, but it definitely has the red on the underside of the shoulders, and then the heavy banding on the tail and the wings looks like an adult red-shouldered.
Yeah, normally you can see the little crescent marks. I don't really see them super defined in this photo, but you'll see a crescent mark on each side. But he says 100% my last name. Jack said black-crowned night heron. It's about time.
Yeah. I think these are really hard when they're juveniles to disseminate from broadwing hawks and
because broadwing hawks can have the crescent-looking pattern too.
I've seen some from eBird that have been called red-shouldered that do not look at all like red-shouldered, and vice versa.
Xander sent me this picture, and he said, "Here's a juvenile laughing gull." It's kind of tough to see.
It's interesting looking.
That's all we had as far as ID submission photos. Do you guys have any questions before we have to go or head out? We'll update you if we get any info on the water thrush.
Mm-hmm.
General consensus kind of seems leaning Louisiana.
I feel like we should do a video specifically about that picture and then talking about which one we think it is going through it. I think that'd be interesting.
We'll have to do an ID tips on that one.
when you were talking about having your followers choose where, what bird. Why did you create the channel?
We created the channel because we've thought birding was misrepresented as kind of just, you know, people's grandparents went out and took photos and did it as like a hobby when you retired. And we found that it was just this really fun adventure, but nobody was really painting it as that and like taking people on these adventures. Like there were so many fishing channels that we were like, it'd be cool to have a birding channel. And so we just really enjoyed taking people with us as we went. And then, you know, people seemed to kind of enjoy coming with us. And then we decided to do some ID stuff and some more things like that too. So it just kind of has grown from then, and we've really enjoyed doing it. So that's kind of how we got here.
Yeah, I thought that it was a good idea initially because I wouldn't say I got bored going to bird without any extra purpose, but it seemed kind of self-serving to just go look at a bird for myself, you know, to spend a lot of time looking for a bird that only counts as something on my personal list. And so I thought it would be fun to create an experience for people so they could kind of see what we see. And I feel like, you know, we haven't been birding as long as a lot of the people that do it, so we always get the chance to learn different things and to, you know, take things from other people that teach us. And it's just been a cool experience, especially doing this and being able to create content is awesome.
I still like going to look for a bird just for myself.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I would rather be able to be like, look at this thing, it's awesome, though, than just be like, yeah.
So you're talking about sharing it with people. You like sharing it with people, right?
Well, because otherwise it's just for me, and why would...
I don't know. I like having the experience because it always takes me to awesome places, like places I never thought I would go.
Have you guys ever tried a big year? If so, what were your best numbers?
You've basically done a Wisconsin big year.
I sort of accidentally did it. Well, this is actually a funny story. When we watched the movie The Big Year, I saw somebody in the chat, Wyoming Adventure, said that they loved The Big Year, and it's a great movie. And when we saw that, I was like, I'm going to try a big year in Wisconsin because I bet that nobody's into birding really, so I can probably just win the big year for Wisconsin. And I found out that it's something that people have been doing for a long time and have really high totals. And so like at first we started trying to do this big year and we didn't know we were doing it all. And then a few years later, my friend Bill and I kind of accidentally did a big year where we had a lot of luck seeing rare birds that were reported, so we just kept going. And then I ended up with, I think, like 301 or 303 or something in the state. But I've never tried a national big year just because I don't have the time or the money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Someone said... Oh, Nature Adventures with Jack says I checked eBird and I think Greater Prairie Chicken. He's talking about...
What he wants us to go see.
Yeah, we definitely want to do a Greater Prairie Chicken episode because they're
did
such
feature them in our Buena Vista Grasslands.
Yeah, we'd love to talk more about like... Well, I would like to talk about the research and talk with people doing the research. No, with the research and get some up-close views. I think that'd be really cool because they're such a unique species. Someone said, is Badgerland a nickname for Wisconsin? Yeah, we're the Badger State. So we just thought, we were thinking about what we would call our channel for a while. And we were just like, I think I was just like, oh, Badgerland birding. And we were like, oh, that's catchy. Like,
yeah,
that's cool.
Catchy.
And there's actually like, isn't there like a Badgerland landscape down the road from
There's
us that I never
yeah.
noticed until it popped up and I was like, huh.
I don't know about you, but I love Wisconsin too.
Yeah.
So especially since this is where we're based out of.
And we were originally just going to focus out in Wisconsin. Then we started traveling other places and we were talking about, should we change the name? And we're like, well, we're from Wisconsin, so it still works, you know, keeping the roots.
Same. I'm bad this year at 190 species so far. I don't think I have a very high total this year either. Missed on a lot of things.
It's not just about numbers, though.
Wyoming Adventures says, I found you guys through Leslie.
Yeah, thanks so much. We love collaborating with Leslie on videos and stuff. We'll hopefully be doing some more of that in the future, too. Brian says, I joined late, but saw you went over my photo earlier. I'll go back and check it out. What I caught was very interesting. Thanks. Yeah, I think that was the Sparrow.
The leucistic one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good discussion about the leucistic sparrow.
Technically, we dinosaur watch. I guess that's technically true.
Could we actually dinosaur watch, like in the Congo, where there's supposedly still dinosaurs?
I don't know. Jack said, how many birds are you guys for the year? We went over this last time, didn't we?
I thought we went over life lists last time.
Oh.
I can pull my eBird up.
I'll
real
pull
quick.
mine up for Louisiana because I haven't really been doing. Well, I guess I could pull up Wisconsin too. Let's see.
I like how eBird keeps all your stats for you.
Yeah, it's very useful. All right. My eBird. For the year in Louisiana, I'm at 282.
I'm at 198 for the year.
Let's see what I'm at for Wisconsin. I haven't been eBirding all my stuff in Wisconsin. I'm at 89.
In Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Lake Mead is not doing so good. Only 3 males showed up. For what?
I don't know. 3 male what?
Wyoming Adventures, we have grouse leks here by Buffalo. That's awesome.
Probably sharp-tailed grouse.
Tom says not sure of numbers, just like getting out there. Yeah, definitely. For me, I feel like it's all about the experience. Like if you can go look for a bird and have a really great experience finding it or not finding it and just finding other cool stuff, it's always awesome. And like I was saying, I love getting out to new places I would never have gone if I wasn't looking for a bird there.
Jack says, I also like the vid with your mom. She seems so sweet and funny. Yeah, she's a character.
She's a keeper.
She loves the birds. She, at our parents' house, just feeds every creature. Like, she puts things out for the flying squirrel, for the woodchuck, for the various bird species.
Oh, Caden said greater prairie chickens.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
those
that's
are
tough.
neat.
Well, they said only 3 showed up. Only 3 males showed up. That's tough.
Yeah.
Jack said do more with her. They want more videos with mom.
Sage grouse in Wyoming. That's awesome. I'm going to have to go out to wherever Wyoming Adventures is and see the sage grouse leks.
I was just checking the time.
Oh.
All right, I think we'll take a few more questions before signing off. Hopefully with the screen capturing stuff that we've been doing, we'll be able to do this when I'm back in Louisiana. So Ryan and I can talk, and you guys can talk in the chat.
How do you know each other?
We're brothers.
I was hoping you were going to come up with some long story like...
I was hitchhiking.
Yeah, exactly. The hitchhiking video.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah, it looked like parts of it were leucistic, Brian, at least. And it also looked like it may have been a younger one, so...
It's almost 11 in New Jersey. Well, thanks for staying up with us, Jack.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're not too tired for whatever you have going on for your birding trip tomorrow.
Brian said he found our channel through Leslie, too. Awesome.
Should we say one more comment?
Yeah, well, we can
one
do...
more question or comment?
We'll do 5 more minutes. It's 9:55 here, so... And, well, like I said, we'll try to...
Jack's one of those that don't go to bed until 12
He's
and
a
then wake up at 3
birder.
a.m. Night birding is interesting. One of the coolest night birding experiences I had was seeing the yellow rails up in the center of the state.
You saw them or heard them?
Oh, heard them, but... And then there was nighthawks and long-eared owls calling as well.
That's cool.
Which is cool, yeah. I also liked when we went to see attempt to see the Chuckwill's widow that one time.
Yeah, we heard all the whippoorwills.
All the whippoorwills were out in the woodcocks.
Those whippoorwills get loud.
They do.
I learned that the Chuckwill's widows are actually significantly larger than the whippoorwills.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because sometimes the whippoorwills will fly at you.
Really?
And apparently the Chucks will. And my friend was like, "Yeah, have you got Chucks coming at you?"
What are they trying to do when they
protect their territory? Have either of you seen a snowy owl? Yes.
We both have. Wisconsin actually in winter is a fairly good place to see snowy owls.
They're eruptive, so it depends, but...
We'll get them every year, though, pretty much, even in a non-eruptive year.
Yeah, and he said, or woodcock. We get woodcocks regularly.
I really like those. They're so funny.
They'll do their mating displays, too.
I want to make a video all about oddball birds, and woodcock would definitely be on there.
Caden said, are you guys in Louisiana or Wisconsin? We're both born in Wisconsin, but I'm just in grad school in Louisiana. So I'll be down there I finished my first year, so I have 1 more year left. So I've also been doing a lot of birding and filming videos and stuff down there. So I'm just back for a little bit before I head back down, before the second year kicks off. But it, provides a lot of cool opportunities to see new species.
Yeah, I was telling him the other day, though, he should get one of these shirts, but with the Louisiana logo. Because we
That'd
have
be
a
pretty
separate
cool,
Louisiana logo. We should do a
That's a good
giveaway or
question,
something
though. I
sometime.
imagine it's kind of confusing. Cause like, we're in Louisiana.
Yeah, we're all over. We should do a giveaway where anybody that buys our shirt and takes a picture of them in it
That'd
can
be
get
fun.
a free mug.
That would be fun. We're also thinking about doing an email list, too.
Well, maybe I can't think of the bird that dives and its wings make a cool sound in the evening. Someone said snipe to it.
A lot of birds' wings actually make cool sounds.
Yeah.
They might be
It might
thinking
be
of
the
the woodcock,
woodcock,
actually. Yeah.
They make all sorts of cool noises when they're doing their flight displays.
Wilson's, Nicholas said snipe. Might be a snipe. They're very similar.
They're similar and asimilar because the snipe will be more in wetland habitats.
I'm
But
talking like
the look
habits
of
and
them is,
coloration. All right, well, final thoughts. We got 2 minutes left. Did the Bucks win officially?
I'll check. I can't believe Gabe said go Hawks.
I know.
They did win.
Oh,
They're in the
wow.
finals.
Can't believe it. Hopefully Giannis will be back by
They
then.
played their two best games of the series without Giannis.
Have you two been to Washington? No, not yet. One of my friends actually just moved to Seattle. He's in plastic surgery, and he's doing his residency there. So I'd love to go visit him in Bird. And I'm hoping he'll find all the cool places, and then he can just take me.
It's perfect. That's what you got to do. Get someone else.
I definitely
want to
go to the Pacific Northwest, though. That's on my list. One of my goals is to make a video in every state, like have at least one. Because we have playlists with like the different states we've been in. And so it'd be cool to do at least one video in every state. Alaska's going to be rough.
Or amazing.
Or crazy awesome. Probably both. I was thinking about the Attu flight, though.
Think about some of the states that are like flyover zone. Or like, what about the East Coast?
There's cool stuff in every state,
one in,
though.
New Hampshire,
yeah.
and then one in Vermont, and
birding
then one in
Rhode
Maine.
Island. I was always wondering what it'd be like to do a big year in Rhode Island.
Oh, Nighthawk, somebody said, for that bird that makes sense.
Could be. You guys got into bird internationally. I've been in Grenada, and also I birded in Jamaica, but that was before we were making episodes. So yeah, we have gotten to bird internationally.
There's too much mosquitoes in Alaska.
There's a video called Ultra Rare Grenada Dove that's about finding the critically endangered Grenada dove. Oh, common nighthawk is the bird they were thinking of. Cool. All right, well, awesome. Thank you guys so much. Feel free to send us more photos. We'll try to update you on the nighthawk, or not the nighthawk, and the water thrush.
We'll update you on the nighthawks.
And hopefully we'll be able to do this again sometime. So, or like, if we're not doing Bird ID, hopefully we'll be able to do another live thing sometime. So some nice stuff from Washington, like marbled murrelet and Pacific wren. That sounds awesome. Had a lot of fun. Thanks for doing this. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you guys have enjoyed, and feel free to share any of our stuff with your friends. We're always trying to grow our channel and reach more people, and just share our fascination with birds with everybody. So really appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time.